50 million. I love this series. When I started on it, I didn't realize how much fun this was going to be, but it is, and I'll tell you why. I made a commitment to God, to myself, to the universe, and to you. And the commitment is to help as many people as I can, but that was too nebulous. So I said 50 million people to discover their divine heritage, who they really are as sons and daughters of a divine creator, to make a choice to serve each other with those gifts. And that was my commitment. I'm going to help 50 million people make that discovery or give in to that knowledge they already have, which is usually the case, and then make a choice to do something with those gifts, to serve with them, to intentionally add good to the world is a phrase that I love to use. Now, what does that all mean? Well, we live in a time where there is huge economic change. There is huge work order change. We've had a long-term pandemic that is over, sort of, but not really, because in parts of China there's resurgence. And I just read an article today, and I don't know if it's true, about a new illness surging somewhere in North Korea that's causing the capital city to be locked down. I didn't do any research, and I don't know that it's true, but what I do know is there is a huge change that has been underway and is underway in the world. And that is from an old model 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when my dad went to work and I started working, and maybe you started. I don't know how old you are as you watch this, but it used to be that you sort of lived somewhere and you had a job working for some company or somebody. And there was a small percentage of people who created businesses and worked for themselves. Some created companies and employed a lot of people. We have notable stories of that. The startups like Google and Facebook and Amazon have become monster employers and biggest companies in the world. But most entrepreneurs are pretty small. One employee, 2, 5, 10, 20, little companies that are important, valuable, the backbone of the economy, I think. And the choice to start a business or not is a personal choice. The choice to have a job is a great choice too, if that suits you. What's sad, for me at least, is so many people who work a job and hate it. I don't like my job. Maybe it's the people, maybe it's the people they work for, maybe it's the mission and ethics of the company. I had the chance to talk to somebody the other day who said, brand new person, I meet a lot of new people. It's fun. I'm on a platform called Lunch Club and in several other groups where me and my team meet lots of people, and then I get a chance to talk to them. And I'll tell you why I'm talking to a lot of people in a minute. But because I do, I get to hear all kinds of stuff. And I talked to somebody the other day that said, I just left the company I was at because I couldn't stand the direction. Well, something about the atmosphere and direction of the company made them say, I got to go do something else. And someone else said, I couldn't stand being a cog in the wheel. Didn't feel like I mattered or was doing anything. Well, that feeling is prevalent. It has been around for a long time. I remember hearing and feeling those things during the years I was in a company working for somebody else, some other corporation. And I worked often in my early years for an electric utility that provided a needed service. I mean, we all use electricity, right? In fact, it's one of the interesting things. If we lose electricity, we're toast. You lose bank accounts, you lose fuel, pumping, water, internet, cell phones, everything disappears in a few days. So that's a whole different conversation, but it's true. So electric provision is one of the kind of things that we really depend on. But even in that, I didn't feel like I was making a contribution to the world that was mine. I was part of an important product or service, but I wasn't doing anything that I felt. So that feeling is pretty pervasive, and the pandemic and the following great resignation, where people don't want to go back to work, don't want to go back and do that. it was kind of like, right when the pandemic started and there was all this lockdown. Remember the reports about beautiful air? And for the first time in so long in parts of, I can't remember, it might have been India, you could see mountains you couldn't have seen for a while. And I'm sure that happened in other places. I just happened to read a report then that they could see mountains that were far away that they hadn't been able to see for years and years and years because of industrial waste and pollution and things. So this change is underway. You can feel it and you know it. You may have felt, in fact, I know you have, intuition, inspiration, revelation, call it what you want. Those are different degrees of contact with the infinite, the eternal, the universe, the divine, God, the creator. Intuition, I'm going to give some definitions just for fun. You can have your own. But as a suggestion, intuition is that quiet feeling that something, you should do something or go somewhere or say something. That intuition, we should do it like this. I have a client who says often talks about their intuition, about knowing what will happen. I know this is going to happen. I know that we should do this. That is an intuition. And that's the name of today's. I'm going to define the other two just for purposes of differentiation. Then I want to talk about intuition today. So inspiration, to me, is a level more than that. It contains more content. You might have an inspiration about how to write a book or the content of something or exactly how to go do something. And so an inspiration, and it's also usually comes with a desire and a motivation to act. So intuition to me is a little more subtle and it contains direction. Inspiration contains motivation. And the last one is revelation, which is kind of direct instruction, words and phrases and complete ideas and stuff. Now, you've probably received all three, and the line between them is probably blurry. And I know I have. I've received revelation that was clear, direct, do this thing. And, the consequences of doing it have been never negative, always, wow, I didn't expect that, I didn't know that. And an inspiration, ideas, sometimes I do them well, sometimes poorly. You probably know all that. So let's get back to intuition. Intuition is your compass. It's a guidance mechanism that you and I, every single person has, owns, was given. And it is sacred, it is powerful, and it is true. So the question is, two things. Why do we have it, and how do we use it, right? Well, we have it as a guide. We have it as a guide to give us ideas and direction about what maybe is good, what maybe is a direction we could explore, right? You might have an intuitive hit about a person, to trust them or not to trust them, or a situation. Those kinds of things are precious. They're special and they're real. And one of the things that I find is we've developed a culture in the last many years of ignoring that, of looking only at things that can be quantified, measured, and looked at in that way. And we miss a whole range of possible things because those measurable, clear things only happen after action and time, or inaction and time. So this is an invitation for you to both cultivate and respond to your intuition every day, not just once in a while, not just when it's big and fiery, right? But what would happen, excuse me, if you cultivated your ability to hear intuition? What would happen if you did that? What would happen if you intentionally said, you know what, I'm going to figure out how to turn up the volume on that intuition knob, and then I'm going to make a choice to follow those intuitive hits. Now, here's what I've experienced. As I follow the intuitive hits, they seem to turn the volume up by themselves. In other words, when I follow the guidance of the divine, it seems to become more frequent and more obvious. Wow, that's interesting. And then separately, there is a practice to learn to cultivate that intuition, to cultivate that connection with you and the divine. Well, let's explore that, and I'm not going to tell you how you have to do it. I can tell you how I do that. Meditation, which is every day, spending time quietly, connecting on purpose, feeling, reaching, kind of like Star Wars. Trust the Force, let go, Luke, all that sort of stuff. Some version of that where your spirit, the inside of you that is the watcher, if you're skiing, there's you skiing down the hill, and there's also the real you, which is watching you ski, right? And I've said this before, but our bodies are not that essence. That essence is something different. And you know that because body parts can be gone, arm or leg or both legs. Those can be missing, and the essence is still there. So we don't know exactly where it is. The heart somewhere, that feels right. The head is an intellect. That seems like something else. So why don't you cultivate your intuition? Why don't you choose to spend some time on purpose, quietly listening? My experience with intuition is that it starts out really quiet. Maybe that's so we have to seek it and yearn for it. Maybe that's because we've spent a long time beating on it. I don't know. Or maybe that's because the societal construct favors the concrete measurable. But I'm going to invite you to ignore the concrete measurable, and I'm not saying don't pay attention to those things, but not as your primary or certainly not your only input. What if you chose to say, I'm going to listen intuitively to things all the time, not just once in a while and the intuition jumps up and slaps you. I'm going to listen for that. So that's part one. Make a choice today, when you hear this, that you're going to set some time aside every day, just a few minutes, to be quiet and see about cultivating your intuitive listening. Okay, listening to intuition and know that you're listening for something. It's not some imaginary weird stuff. It is a real yearning on the part of the divine to communicate with us. And again, my experience, and that's all I can share, is what I know, and then the experience I've had with others, is that there are rules or guidelines or some frameworks about the communication between us and the divine. When I had my near-death experience, or when I died, one of the 4 principles I came away with is that all the help we need, you and me, to discover, develop, and serve with our gifts, to have big impact, to create all we want in the world, all the help we need is available from both sides, from this side and from the other side. When I had those conversations, I was at a doorway leaning on a door jamb, so I said both sides of that door. And if you haven't read it and that kind of thing interests you, the whole experience is written in this book, Meeting God at the Door, Conversations, Choices, and Commitments of a Near-Death Experience, and it talks about when I died in 2018 and what happened and the choice I made to come back, which was wonderful, and I'm glad I did. But anyway, one of the governing principles seems to be the honoring always of choice. You and I, we get to choose. Agency. The right to decide. So you're sovereign over your life, and that brings great freedom and it brings great responsibility. The freedom is we do choose and make out of ourselves exactly what we wish to be. And that is, the quote, our deepest fear is not that we're powerless, but that we're powerful beyond measure. What if you are? What if you actually are, and that we have fled to safety by playing small? We fled to safety because that responsibility is too big to actually create our being and our impact and our possibilities and we're playing small because we're afraid of it. Well, you can continue to do that. And in fact, from what I see most folks do, Your invitation here, if you want to be someone who has a big impact and income, incidentally, I talked about entrepreneurship to start with, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. You can have all the income and impact you want. Absolutely, you can have that. But it comes by doing the things that go there. And one way is to, claw and fight and do the corporate thing. But a lot of that brings lack of fulfillment and wondering what the purpose in life is and all the rest of the stuff that you've heard before. Another way is to listen to your divine gifts, to intentionally find them and cultivate those. You are given those gifts to make a difference, to add good to the world. So your first invitation is to choose right now to spend time, just a few minutes every morning and every night, maybe 5 or 10 minutes as you get up and go to bed, because that's when your mind seems to be most attuned to that. Cultivate your intuition. The second part of that challenge is to trust it and act on it. Trust it and act on it, because what I see in my own life and others, not anymore for me, but it used to be, is, I'll do that later. Oh, I don't know. What? Oh, that'd be too hard. Oh, I can't do it right now. Always that. Well, if I say to the divine, I can't do that right now, that means either I'm scared and I don't want to do it right now, which is usually the case, or, yeah, you're stupid. You don't know what you're telling me. You don't get it. You don't really understand my situation. What? Right? So why would we take that stance toward the divine intelligence, the knowing of all things? You don't know what you're doing. It's not hard. I can't do that right now. That's ludicrous on its face. So you can. So my invitation to you today is to spend some time cultivating every day and then make a choice just to do one or two little things every day, like 1%. I'm not saying go, quit everything and go do something new. I understand we all have obligations. We all are wherever we are in our lives. We could be 20, we could be 50, we could be 80. And we can make out of that what we want. Well, I'm 20, I'm not really ready yet. I'm 50, or 40, I'm mid-career, I got all these responsibilities. I'm 70 or 80, I'm too old. Okay. Just exactly when would have been the right time? When somehow you had this huge windfall, a ton of money, no responsibility, no pressure, and a beautiful opportunity that someone laid at your doorstep. You know what? That's never going to happen. I don't even know anybody that's happened to. Maybe you do. I don't know. But that isn't the growth path. The growth path is choosing to listen to intuition and climbing the mountain. That's the growth path. The glory of discovery at every turn, the beautiful vista as you walk around another switchback in the trail. It is the glory and beauty of this world and this life. So I don't care what age you are. I don't care how many setbacks you've had. I don't care what position you're in. I promise you can start today. I know you can cultivate intuition because it's your birthright. And I know you can make a choice to listen to that, just 1%. Do one or two things that you wouldn't otherwise do. And so what that does is it develops your ability to trust that intuition, to rely on it, to realize it is nudging you in the direction of your ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy. I started with entrepreneurship, or somewhere near the beginning, and here's the thing. Creating a business or an income by using your divine gifts and talents and cultivating that intuition has never been easier than it is right now. Yet over and over again, I talk to people, I can't, I'm scared, I don't really have anything. You do, but you have to be willing to find it and to build it and to wave the flag and go do it. You have to, I got a good friend that I love, great coach, got to get on the game, get on the court in the game. He loves basketball stuff. You got to be in the game. If you're kibitzing as a fan, that's nothing. Even if you're on the sidelines cheering hard, that's nothing. You got to get in your game, the game of your life. That's your invitation today. I give you my love, my support, my offer of help. And this is an offer from someone who has walked that road in all of its brutality and glory, in all of its delicate spirituality, delicate revelation, and all of the struggles of self-doubt and fear. I'm on a road to 50 million. I want to help you. We'll see you tomorrow on the road to 50 million.